So this is the first time that I've ever really experiencing having to do lead generation, having to do all this stuff, different stuff. And it's a roller coaster. I don't know if any entrepreneur can describes it any other way, because in one day you said, "Oh man, I'm gonna hit it. It's gonna be the best ever," and the next day you're saying, "Well, where's the homeless shelter? I got to start looking them up." Right.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
And you've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
Gabe, thank you so much for joining us today. We are all excited to hear about your business. But before we get into that, can you give us just a little bit of background of who you are and what makes Gabe Gabe?
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for having me, Ken. I really appreciate that. I think my career has been built around actually when I started, I was running my brother's bar, and I kind of would when I was 27, I just kind of didn't know myself and all that. So I ended up taking 3 months off and going around the country, visiting Alaska. I put 12,000 miles on my Honda Civic that summer. And when I got back, and it was funny because I met perfect strangers. I did this by myself, met perfect strangers, and they told me, that you're wasting your life. You've got no this, you've got no that, you got no motivation. So that kind of inspired me. So when I got back, make a long story short, I got into computers. And from there, it was funny because I used to hate tech stuff, and then I just went the opposite direction. So I did really well in school and took off. So I became a software developer. In my career, I have built things. That's kind of what I've been involved with, just being either on a team or by myself, building systems that other people can use. And normally what happens is you go up in management, you stop coding. I never wanted to do that. I always loved doing that. And because I knew that managers get fired, but the people who can actually do the work are the ones that they'll keep around. So I've always kept my fingers in the tech stuff. But luckily, I had some weird things happen in my life where I was kind of still involved in tech, but I could do other stuff as well. So I was a real estate agent at the same time, and that's how I got into marketing. So I've got actually, and then my dog, I had two charities that got started, one by my dog and one by my daughter, and that caused me to get into social media and marketing. So that kind of really shaped me to be able to do both at the same time. And so that's kind of where I am now.
Awesome. So started out a wanderer, bartender, and took a little journey. And through that journey, came home and decided to jump into technology.
Absolutely, yeah.
I love it.
I lived in D.C. and I looked at the Sunday edition of the Washington Post. This is back in the late '70s, and they at that time they had the Washington Post had a huge, thick section, just all jobs,
right?
And most of them were in tech. Most of them were computers. I said, why not? I'll try it.
And for the kids that don't remember, in the '70s. Our hard drives were punch cards, right? So you were doing the punch card programming.
I was right after the punch cards.
Oh, right after the punch cards.
I had the Radio Shack TRS-80 with 3 lines that I had to do my programming in, and so but that was I did that working remotely from a Vax, and I just loved it. I don't know why. It was just something that I really, really did. I just loved it.
It's funny because if you go back and look at tech history. It was brand new, cutting edge, but a lot of it compared to today with the internet was kind of simplistic. So,
oh my gosh!
But it was leaps and bounds above what they had just a couple of years before that every single year. So it's an interesting time to go back and think about the technology, the history of technology, how long we've had computers, and the personal computer is a huge catalyst for what we have today, our current world. And we have some people to thank for that, Steve Jobs, and one of them. You've got to meet Bill Gates, and you have an interesting story behind you were doing a speech and Bill Gates got to introduce you?
It was kind of funny. What happened was I was working for Booz Allen at the time, and we had a project that we were building for the DEA. It was a booking system for the DEA. So we were the first to marry images with the database, and so we did that, and plus we had an electronic fingerprint system. So we put all this stuff together so people could do like the lineups and all that virtually, and we were the first ones to do that. And so we our server was Microsoft NT, and that was when NT was just coming out,
Right.
Windows NT, and Microsoft somehow, I don't know how they found out about it, but they said, well, would you care to showcase your software at FOSSE in Washington, D.C., which is a Federal Office Systems Expo, huge trade show, right?
Right.
And so my boss was it's not normally what Booz Allen would do, but my boss didn't listen to any of them. He just did what he wanted to do. So he came in and told me, he said, well, we got an opportunity to demonstrate your software on stage at FOSSE. I said, okay. Most I'd ever done in front of was in 20 people. That's the most I'd ever done to that time. He said, well, this will be a slightly bigger crowd. I think it's 5,000, and you'll be doing it on C-SPAN at the same time. And guess what? And to add a little more spice into it, Bill Gates is going to introduce you on stage. And this was a 40-minute live software demo. And if you've ever, if you could imagine, any software demo that's 2 minutes has bugs in it and it's not going to work, right? So 40-minute live software demo. Microsoft produced a video, got my father-in-law involved. They did all this stuff with lineups and criminals and arresting people. And they produced this video and put that on first. And oh my gosh, I was so nervous. My wife and I practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. And we gave up a family reunion to do it. And so I went like the whole 40 minutes. There were no bugs in it. It was just everything worked. And so I got there, and the interesting thing was, so I saw him. He was sitting out like 10 rows up, just in the audience by himself. This was before anything started, and before they even let the crowd in. And his assistant comes up to me, and she says, well, Mr. Gates would like to see your presentation. And I go, okay, like what? Like now? She goes, yeah. So I had to do the whole 40-minute thing in front of just him before we did it in front of everybody. Actually, that made the other one kind of easier. So I was so much more nervous to do it in front of him.
Right.
But yeah, that's kind of how it was. And I have the recording of it still. From C-SPAN and everything. So it's kind of
Is that
fun.
published on YouTube somewhere?
There's part of it. I didn't put it on there, but there's parts of it. I can find. I don't put it out there, but I can get you a copy or show you.
I'd love to see it, and if we can link to it at the bottom, if we get your permission to do that, I think that would be great. So
yeah, I think there's a part where I talk about it, and he comes. I just use a soundbite where he says Gabe, and introducing Gabe O'Neill or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I'll see what I have out there.
That's got to feel pretty good. Now, I've done speaking, like crowds of one, all the way up to, I think my largest crowd was 20,000 total. Is
right.
The largest crowd I've ever had a speaking engagement with. Speaking to one is way more challenging than speaking to a group. How did it feel doing a one-on-one with Bill Gates on
oh my gosh,
using his technology software you built on top of his tech?
Right.
It's got to be pretty mind-blowing.
I mean, we had practiced over and over, literally hundreds of times that we had done this. So my focus was just, I'm just going to do this, right? I'm just going to do it. I know that when I used to play, I played snooker in college, which is a version of billiards, pool. And I remember when I'd get in a really tense match, we would play like these tournaments and all that. My knees would start to shake. So they called me shaky. I had no control over it. I mean, I was still shooting pretty well, but my knees would they would come watch me. Look at this guy's legs. Look at him, and they're doing this. So I'm not even sure if I did that or not, but I might have at least felt that that happening. But the only comment he made was is that I needed to lighten up a little bit, because there was a couple of jokes in there that I threw in, but
Right.
I wasn't polished enough to just go, just to be gregarious and say the joke the way it was supposed to be done. I just kind of did it like flatline, and
Right.
but other than that, I mean, again, it went off great because compact. We were using a compact computer, and they were loving it because I was putting my hand on the compact and Windows NT, and they loved it. So yeah, it was a pretty cool time.
Wow. That is such a cool experience. And
Mhm.
and I can't imagine. I've got to do some pitches with some pretty big names, but Bill Gates is one that is at the pinnacle of technology and really the world that we know today, the world that we're all living in, right? Without people like him and Jobs and even Zuck today, our world would look very different. So
Mhm.
that's a pretty cool accomplishment. Congratulations on that. But
Thank
fast
you.
forwarding to today, you have Digital Accelerant is the name of your
Right.
company. Can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about what is Digital Accelerant today?
Okay, so Digital Accelerant is a company I started when we moved here to in Atlanta about in 2015, and it was just my company name that I used to because I was a software developer that was we were I was just doing contract work. I just wanted to be an independent developer, just looking for work basically, and we moved here under real kind of crazy reasons, but so and so that was it. And then in a couple of years later, about 2017, 18, we moved again in about an hour away from where we were located, still in the Atlanta area. But I lost all my networking buddies. They were the folks that were feeding me all these jobs. And so I said, "Oh man, my contract is about to run out. I need to get out there. I need to I need to expedite this process. What can I do? Because it takes a long time in person to get people to know you, like you trust you, where you've got enough people that your name comes up and they'll send it to you. So that takes. I mean, it took me a year the first time. So I said, I don't have that time. How can I expedite this process? So I thought, well, what if I built them something? What if I built something useful for somebody and not ask for anything in return? That way they get to see my work ethic, they get to see my creativity, they get to see number one thing for me is that is that I do what I say I'm going to do. And that's all I ask of other people. They don't
Yeah.
come through all the time. But that's very important to me. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. So if I say I'm going to build you something, I do it and I show it to you and I deliver it. And so
Right.
that was my idea. And so I thought, well, what can I build? And I had a digital business card that I had built out of a PDF file, and I looked at it and it was like, oh, you can't really share this. It's kind of junk compared to what I really want to do. So I designed my own custom digital business card, and I stood up in the networking group right down the street and said, if anybody wants a free digital card, see me afterwards. And instead of getting that awkward situation where everybody knows each other, they're all talking to each other. When the meeting was over, they all lined up to get one. And so that's kind of how it started. We just that was like in November 2018, and so it really took off, and people really liked them because excuse me, number one, they were custom done to their specifications, so they liked that part.
Right.
And so they didn't look like any other digital card that was out there. They were just really kind of high end things. And then, and we started adding features to it. So we added video to it. And, oh, you got your own video on it. And then we started adding, when we added the texting part, that was a real game changer. So now we just keep adding to it. We've got a ton of different options that you can get to really make something that's super different and cool, and it elevates your digital profile. So, it was funny because I never really thought, in personally, I thought, well, these are great, but nobody's going to buy them. And then I thought, and then so people were asked, friends of of the people that had them say, well, I want one too. Well, I'm not going to give you one. You don't even go to this networking event. So, okay, I'll sell them. So okay, maybe I'll sell a few, but they're never going to pay that much enough for me to do anything with it. And so at one point I realized, the only person that's holding me back is me from those negative statements. Right. And so once I pulled apart those self-imposed glass ceiling that I had above me, then things just opened up. I said, because really, if you sell this to a company and you get a lot of salespeople to use it, they all have their own, they all get their own leads from this. Because when, like, for example, to get my card, you text Gabe to 321-421-5213.
Right.
And when that happens, we capture that cell phone number. So we have that to be able to text people back to keep them involved in the conversation. And so if you empower that to like 10, 20, 50 salespeople, they all get their own leads. Their game is just risen incredibly. So it elevates their digital profile, makes them look like a rock star. And when that happens, they say, oh, this person's got their marketing game. They got their tech game going. I need to work with this person in that company. So that's basically the basis behind it. So around September of 2019, I decided to focus strictly on the digital cards. And then then they started doing really well. And then then the holidays, see me at the beginning of the year. Okay. January, February did really well. March hit the pandemic.
Right.
And I had been networking in person to get them out there. And so that kind of ended, but luckily there was a statement that, or like a quote that I tripped over, and it said, you cannot control the direction of the wind, but you can adjust your sails. And that was so powerful to me, because that's what I said. That's what I got to do. So that's when I started getting involved in all these virtual networking events across the country. And now they're all over. Now they're being sold all over the U.S. So that was something that was really, that was another thing that was pretty cool for me. So that's where we are now.
Right. So, and you have, let's just walk through this really quick. You have a QR code that somebody can scan, right? Can you throw that up for us?
Oh yeah, right there. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you got your phone, you can scan that right now. Can you walk us through the process of what happens if they scan this QR code?
Okay, so this is another thing that's really cool. Normally a QR code will take you right to my card. This will actually generate the text necessary on your phone. And all you have to do is hit send. And when people see that, they think I'm a rock star.
Right.
And because how did he do that? And so when you hit send, then you get my card. But then we still capture your cell phone number. And we don't, people, some of the real skeptics said, oh, do you sell it? No, we don't do any of that stuff. You can opt out of it. We don't pester people. We're not trying to, that the one thing that I don't do is try and wrestle people to the ground to buy one. I show them the value and help them buy it if they see it. So that's kind of how it works.
So,
but
and I've seen this in action, and it's pretty cool stuff. I've got, I'm not a customer because I've got already something very similar kind of process going that I've, created for myself. That when I was creating my things, I didn't have a service like what you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is really cool, and it's an all-in-one bundle that a person can get. I've seen people with these QR codes now at trade shows, really big on the back of their T-shirts, small in the front logos, all of those things. So, there's all kinds of creative ways that you can get this top of the funnel activity. And if you're in sales, you know that top of the funnel activity is one of the more challenging activities to get done, right? It's the get off your butt and go out there and do it, do the cold emails, do the cold calls, all that things. This is a way nicer way to do that cold outreach, right?
Right.
It's a QR code, text me.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned trade shows, because another thing that we do that nobody else does, we give you a badge with a lanyard, and it's got the QR code right on it.
Wonderful.
Over here, so that so you're walking around wearing this thing, and people will say, well, hey, what's that? What's my digital card? You can either text my keyword to the number, or you can just scan this. And then when you're doing this with the person, you're actually getting them to get your card, getting them to save your information right on their phone, walking them through it, establishing rapport all at the same time. again, so you get it just really gets the conversation started, icebreaker, and yet you're exchanging information that easily.
So I buy your service, I get my lanyard, beautiful. I go to a trade show, I can stuff my name tag, all that stuff right into that lanyard, flip it over back and forth. So I've got it. Somebody scans my QR code with their phone.
Mm-hmm.
Prompts for the text, they still have to hit send, right? It doesn't automatically hit
send.
No,
they have to hit send, right?
And then what does that user get back? They send the text message. What happens?
They get my digital card.
They get your digital, or whoever they texted, whoever they were dealing with at that moment, right? So they'll get, in this scenario, they'll get a digital card from Gabe. And would that be the first step to purchasing this service if somebody was out there looking for it?
Well, yeah, that would, because my card's got my calendar on it. People, and that's the other beauty about it, is that there's a lot of cards out there, and a lot of them do, they claim, oh, just tap it and it's right on there, but you can't do that virtually. But what another thing that you can't do with other cards, you can't empower other people to give it out for you. But if I can get you to remember Gabe to 321-421-5213, you've got an endless supply of my digital card that you can give out at any time. And my not only my customers, but my people who didn't even buy from me, they do that. They'll say, hey, this is a really cool. You're looking at digital cards. Well, you got to check out Gabe because he's the godfather. That's why I'm known as the godfather of the digital business card. You got to check out him, and just text Gabe to 321-421-5213. So it's that easy to get it out there. When you see mine, again, they're all custom done, and they have they're very, very different when you first see them. And when the card is presented, my schedule's right on it. You just get right on my calendar. So a lot of times I'll get an email that somebody texted my card, and then I get that cell phone number, and then they'll be on my calendar. I've never even met them yet, and they're in my sales funnel. So I don't know what's more powerful than that. So that's really one of the things that I'm really excited about, to offer that to my clients, and the ROI that they're getting is crazy. When Craig was saying that in his first 3 days, he got a 1,200% ROI from it, because somebody got right on. They didn't even talk to him. They just saw that he had it, and they texted his keyword, and then they got right on his calendar, and then he bought from him. So, and I had another client who said in his first year, he's made $200,000 from his card. And that's something like an 80,000% ROI. So wow. It's one of those things with digital marketing. Normally you say they'll say, well, you have to wait 6 months. It takes a long time, SEO, whatever it is, pay-per-click. But this, you can get immediate results. And then then in the long game, the more people you train to know your keyword, the more they can remember it and refer business out to you. It makes it real simple.
That is so cool. And taking a basic concept like the business card, and I've seen a bunch of different variations of that, adding the QR code in the text and the lanyard, all of those value adds, I think, is a big part of why you knocked this one out of the park, right? Because you're not just here's a website or here's a PDF, but you've added real services behind that. Today, or historically, you give somebody a business card, it's out in the wild, you don't know. There's nothing more depressing, to me at least, or there's some things depressing, is leaving a trade show and seeing one of your business cards on the floor, right? And that happens. Right, it's really depressing. So, you give out thousands of them, and hoping that tens or hundreds of them come back to you in some way. And this way, you've got a lot of tracking. Every person that goes out, you've got them, and you can continue to nurture them in a pretty easy way, right? So I think that's really, really cool and interesting. And congratulations for.
Well, I appreciate that.
For continuing to change your sales until you caught the right wind.
Exactly.
Yes.
Can I show it to you?
Absolutely.
So when the card first comes up, this is what it looks like. So these are called animated sequences, and nobody else is doing this kind of stuff. So what's happening is that we're putting out 4 or 5 different custom phrases that are people are going to read that stuff just because of the way that they're coming up, and it's very, very different. And when it's done, it just kind of, it just, it finishes off the different messages. When it's done, it says grab a spot on my calendar to get yours today. That goes away. It just morphs right into the card, and then that card becomes live from there. So that the reason why I showed you that is because nobody else is doing this kind of stuff. This is just really designed I had a realtor, a broker came to me, and I said, have you looked at other digital cards? She said, yeah, I have, but she said, but I'm selling luxury homes, and those don't really apply to what we're trying to do. Your cards do. So,
Right.
yeah. So that's kind of how it, that's
So
how it works.
End user scans it, sends a text. They get this back, this layout in a text message.
Yes.
How do they access it later?
It's actually a link to the card. In the text message will be a link to the card. They click the link and they get to this. This is basically a landing page. It's an HTML landing page.
Right.
So they get that, and then from there, all of the buttons are hot. All the social media buttons are hot. They're go to my LinkedIn, my YouTube, and whatever buttons you want to have on there, you can. The video button plays an actual video on top of it, and it doesn't do any ads or waiting for that. You can scan, you can save it directly to your phone contacts, and again, you can see the schedule button. You can trade the email address for white paper. Again, all kinds of stuff.
Right. I love it. It's beautiful. I love the design, the layout. Once I've made my card and I push it out to the wild, right? And somebody gets it, can I make changes?
Changes are not, you cannot, you send them to me, and if they're like minor changes, like, oh, I've got a different video, that's fine. If it's an email address change or a phone number change, it's fine. If it messes with the design, then we have to talk. But yeah. So most people, they'll update either a webinar thing or whatever. They'll send me a different link. But usually what changes is the content of where these buttons are directing to. So if you have the button that goes to a page on your site, you can change that site all day long, and the card will still point to it, right? So
wonderful. I love it. It's really exciting stuff. It's a new look on business cards as a whole, and the ability to change it, make changes. So small moves, adds, and changes are no charge, but redesigns obviously cost money.
Yeah, and there's not too many people, because what happens is, I mean, when I say custom design, I mean what we do is we grab the logo, headshot, website colors, whatever you want to send us. I send them to my graphic designer. I say, go. I don't tell her what to do. I say, you just do your magic, and she does. And I'm telling you, it looks fabulous. There's very few of them that really need to be redesigned. Actually, we did one recently where the guy did it himself, and then he kept seeing the ones that were coming up, and he said, could you have your person do it? And we did, and it looks far better. So yeah, but for the most part, the redesigns aren't needed. We just kind of update the, either a website address or email or whatever it is.
Right. All right. So now I want to dive into the important stuff. You talked about this briefly in the very beginning with your knee shake, talking with Bill, your own limiting beliefs and your own glass ceiling.
Right.
I've fell victim to this in my lifetime, and I have to believe that anytime somebody's really trying to do something exceptional or step out of their comfort zone, that they're going to deal with those own self-limiting beliefs.
Right.
Do you have any tips or tricks, or what do you do to help you set those self-limiting beliefs, realize that they're self-limiting, put them to the side, and keep moving forward anyway?
Well, and that's an interesting question, because I think we all kind of struggle with this kind of stuff every now and then, right? Because and as an entrepreneur, what I've learned is before this, before I really did this, I had been working for another company for a long, since forever, right? So this is the first time that I've ever really experiencing having to do lead generation, having to do all this stuff, different stuff. And it's a roller coaster. I don't know if any entrepreneur can describe it any other way, because in one day you said, "Oh man, I'm gonna hit it. It's gonna be the best ever," and the next day you're saying, "Well, where's the homeless shelter? I got to start looking them up, right?" So I mean, it is so different, and especially with something like this because yes, digital, and it was the pandemic that really brought the onslaught of other digital cards, but but since we're kind of blazing a trail and doing something totally different, we charge, ours are a little bit more expensive for obviously for what you get. And it is tough to, hey, is this going to work? But every time I meet somebody who says, "Oh my God, this is fantastic," and I know that I'm onto something, and yeah, it's just you have to throw that stuff away. You have to real like if you have those limiting beliefs right now, look at them and ask yourself, is this what holding me back?
Right.
Because that's what was holding me back. I'm actually working with under a guy named Eric Lofholm, who's a sales guy, and he's a trainer. And he talks about mindset all the time. He said, your beliefs are what are going to happen to you. If you believe that you're going to fail, or if you believe that you can't do this, then you're right. That's a common way of thinking for the folks who've been there and done that. And for me, it's hard not to struggle sometimes, but at the same time, when that happens, you have to look back and say, is this limiting me? Because we all have, if you look at the people that are out there are successful, some of them are, like I kind of look and go that person and that person, they what's the difference between them and me? I mean, we all have capabilities, right? We all
Yes.
can do it. So
If
yeah,
another
so
human being,
right.
we're all
Mhm.
humans, and if another human
Right.
being can do something that you think you want to do,
Right.
they've proven that it can be done by a human, right?
Right.
So
Mhm.
so you can do it too if that's truly what you want to do.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And you just have to I think the other thing I think for me is I just became really passionate about this because it didn't matter what I was doing, whether it was for Microsoft, working with Microsoft. I've always wanted to build something that was of value. So the thing that we did for the DEA, that was of very much value to them. I built another product later on, which was it looked at database structures and evaluated them. That was valuable to other people, but that was
Right.
actually sold by Computer Associates. So people around the world were using it, and it would kill me if I was on a team of people that work for this company and you work on for something 6 months. Oh, the budget ran out for that. We're canning it. We're throwing you on something else. That would kill me because
Yeah.
really what I want to have is stuff that people are using and getting benefit from it. And so that's why I'm so passionate about our cards is because people are really getting value from them. They're getting the ROI from them. They're using them and they're saying, "Wait, this works. You
Right.
got to check this out." And so that's really what makes me happy about it. But you got to
That's
be passionate. You got to be passionate about it.
phenomenal. I think you've really narrowed in on your tech side and came up with a really, really cool service. Gabe, what's next for you?
I'm not done until this thing is taken over the world, and I'm not looking beyond this business. I could have branched out and said, "Well, I've done websites. Well, let me be all the monkey wrench or the whatever the Swiss Army knife for everybody in
Right.
digital marketing." And I decided, no, I want to build the best digital business card. I'm known as the godfather of the digital business card, so I want to be true to that and build the best one out there. So we're continually innovating. We just recently introduced a feature where you can send out personal videos to people on something that looks like your card. So again, again reinforce your brand. So, and we have text marketing, a service that we have through our portal. So we're always developing stuff to make this a comprehensive package to really help get you business from the time that you
Wonderful.
meet the person to the time that they either buy or they don't. So
Absolutely. I love it so much. Thank you so much for your time today, Gabe. I had a blast talking with you, and I hope we get to talk again soon. and I might scratch my head a little bit and change my direction on how I'm currently handling this process, and give your program a shot. So one last time,
we'd love to have you.
One last time before we go, can you throw that QR code up? And what is the URL that somebody can do more research on?
It's digitalaccelerant.com.
Digitalaccelerant.com. We'll throw the link up at the bottom for those challenged in typing like I am on spelling.
Yeah, I should have that, but I guess I don't. But yeah, so really, you can if you scan the QR code, it goes. My website's there. Everything's there. But if you want to just go to digitalaccelerant.com, you can. And that's got a bunch of videos on there, and it's kind of showing all the different features and et cetera, et cetera.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Gabe. I had a great time.
But thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed speaking with you, and yeah, we should stay connected.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That's it for today's show, folks. If you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. All you have to do to join that text line is send me any question about business or technology. I'll do all the research, and I'll give you an absolutely free, totally unbiased answer. Get to work.